Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how I prepare for an over-the-board chess game. So I have a tournament coming up starting on Tuesday night. It's going to be one round every week. It's a game 60 with a 30-second increment. So let's dive into Chessbase and I'll show you how I'm going to prepare for this game. Alright, so my opponent will be playing the white pieces. His name is Roy, and Roy's a 1700 rated player. I've played Roy many times in the past. So what I did was I went back to our last over-the-board game where we had the same colors, and I pulled this up here. And what I wanted to do was kind of get a good feel for how Roy plays the opening, how he likes to play the positions out of after the opening, and then try to find some different improvements or kind of wrinkles that I could throw at him if he's also kind of expecting the same move order. So one thing to think about when you're creating your opening repertoire, it's okay to always follow the same moves over and over. But kind of the next step in terms of your chess progression with the opening phase is when you know your opponent or your opponent knows you. You do not want to be predictable, because if you play the exact same lines every single time, your opponent can actually try to find surprises for you. So it's always good to try to mix things up just a little bit. If you want to keep playing the same things over and over, some players do that and they have a lot of success. But what you need to do is really make sure that you're super solid in all of the lines that you think your opponent may throw at you. So I like to mix things up a little bit, always try to find a new move to throw at the opponent. But the other way you could play it is just get really, really solid playing the same move orders over and over. So the last time Roy and I played was 2017. He played d4 and knight f3. So Roy is a London player typically. I think he likes to play bishop to f4 followed by e3, c3. And one way that I've played the London quite a bit in the past is I'll play for d5 and a quick c5, and then look for kind of queen b6 variations. But against Roy, I would sort of like to start out with the same move order that I did last time. So lately I've been kind of doing some videos on the Benko. I've been interested in getting some c5 moves back into my repertoire. After knight f3 here, I think I will again play 2c5. It's a nice combative way to fight against the London if he does go well, actually in this case it'd probably be c3 to keep the bishop open. But I think Roy will most likely play 3d5 here. And when I say most likely, I think it's probably over 90% chance that he's going to play d5. And the reason I say this is because I've watched a lot of Roy's games over the years, and I know he likes the positions where the pawns get very locked up. He's good at kind of maneuvering all the pieces around with a locked center, and he really, I think, enjoys those types of games. So I really expect him to play d5 again. Now, a couple different things that I did to try to look for new ideas. Number one, I pulled up the Lichess Opening Explorer, and I had another recent video on that where I kind of talk about how to use the Opening Explorer on Lichess to build a Joko Piano, or not Joko Piano, Goring Gambit repertoire, close to Joko Piano. And I'm going to usually do something similar to that when I'm looking to find a new idea against an opponent. I will go into the Lichess database, look for moves that score well, and maybe see if I can incorporate those somehow into my game. In this case, the move that scored really well in the Lichess database at club level was g6, but I don't like g6 because if you look at Stockfish down here, Stockfish is saying it's a 1-point advantage for white if white plays knight c3, and it's 0.95 if they play c4, and it's 0.95 if they play a4. So there's a lot of moves that all kind of prevent this early b5 idea. And I think there's a good chance that Roy plays knight c3 and just gets a really good position 4 moves in. So that's a move, g6, where I don't think it's tricky for white, and it's just giving white a chance to get a better version of what I played last time. So last time I played b5 immediately, and I'm planning on playing this again. I think b5 kind of makes the position more interesting, and I really like the dynamics of this position. I've played this structure quite a few times in the past. So here Roy played bishop g5. That's the top move, and I really think that he would play it again. And this is where I sort of want to pull out the first wrinkle. I don't want to play queen b6, which I played last time. Even though queen b6 is the most popular move in the database, I was looking at what Stockfish says here. And if you look at Stockfish 14, at depth 25, it's saying queen b6 is the top move. But take a peek over here on the right-hand side. So these are other users that store their Chessbase analysis in the cloud. And Chessbase will choose which top 3 lines to store based on a combination of factors. And 2 of them, I believe, are the depth of the variation as well as the engine that the users are using. So we have users using versions of Stockfish up to depth 47 and 53 that are playing 4G6. And this move is not very common in the database. Let me pull up the database. Online database. G6 is way down here on the list. So queen b6 has 1,000 games. G6 only has 100 games. So this is sort of a novelty. This is not a very common move order playing G6 here, and that's what I like about it. This is not a move that someone's going to expect. Now, at this point after G6, I'm almost positive that Roy is going to take. So even though I don't know for sure what Roy is going to play every single move, and maybe the chances of us getting to this prep are 50%, it's still going to help me because I'm trying to learn the different types of move orders that make sense out of this position. And for example, let's say Roy does not play bishop g5. Let's say he plays pawn to e3. I know now that I'm getting sort of a Benko-ish structure, and I've played the Benko quite a bit. So here I could play bishop b7, I could play b4, queen a5 check. There's quite a few moves here that kind of keep us in that Benko territory, and I'm very comfortable playing that. So I could play e6 or g6. I really like this position. So bishop g5, this is the way to challenge my move order. It's probably the strongest move. And what I like is if he doesn't play bishop to g5, then I feel very comfortable. So I feel I should mainly prep this move. So I'm going to throw g6 at him. And I'm pretty sure here he's going to take. He took f6 in our game previously, and I think he would do it again, especially seeing this kind of strange looking pawn structure. So e takes f6, and now in our game last time he did a combination of knight c3 and e4. I think he would do something similar, so probably starting with e4. And now this bishop hits the pawn on b4. So again, I'm kind of following Stockfish here. Sorry, pawn on b5. I'm following Stockfish lines here, and in the cloud as well as my version are saying pawn to b4. And I'm actually going to increase my CPUs to 6. And if the fan gets too loud, I'll decrease them again. So I'm thinking I will play pawn to b4 here, getting away from the attack of this bishop. Now at this point there's no knight to c3, so I think the chances are that Roy is going to play something like knight to d2. And then I can fianchetto this bishop. He will probably get this bishop out. Let's see, where did he put it last time? On d3. Let's try bishop d3 again. Nice solid move defending the center. Castle, castle. And I think pawn to d6 here is good. And let's say, I'm thinking rook to e1. I'm looking at what he played last time. Knight b to d2, queen c2. He played pawn to c3. So he might try c3 here again. Now what I like about this is I'm going to keep this f-pawn back. So I've looked at this a little bit prior to this video even. Like let's say he plays rook e1, a slower move. Now I can play f5, and look at this Stockfish eval. Jumped up to 0.6 because I'm immediately threatening taking on e4 followed by taking on b2. So let's say he takes on f5. This is where the fun starts. I can actually ignore this pawn for now, take on b2. After rook b1, drop this bishop back, either to c3 or back to g7 looks decent, but let's say c3. And now I'm not worried about this capture because I can take back with the h-pawn. So now we have this 3 versus 2 scenario on the queen side. Both of my bishops have a lot of scope, and I have the bishop pair advantage. So this knight is pinned. So let's say he plays rook e2, knight d7, and knight e4, trying to kick this bishop. Now I'm looking at ideas from Stockfish again. Bishop to g7 is one idea, second best move. Knight to e5 is the top move. So we are now threatening knight takes f3 check, which would ruin the pawns in front of the white king. And if knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, now we're down to 2 bishops against bishop and knight, and we have the 3 versus 2 advantage on the queen side. And now what I'm doing here is I'm hitting the X key in Chessbase, that is the threat key. So it's pretending that it's my move again, and I'm kind of looking at what are the threats here. Bishop to g4 is one of them, pinning the rook to the queen, and after f3, bishop d4 check, so it kind of opens up the white king position. So maybe white should play h3 here. And now let's see, what should black play? Queen c7, bishop d4, rook e8, queen h4. Yeah, I like all of these ideas. Queen h4 is very tempting to me because I think if I can get queen f4 and expose this king even more, then what I can try to do is play on both sides of the board. I'll go for a king side attack, but also kind of eye this queen side play, see if I can get these pawns rolling over here. Like I would love a rook on c8 at some point and then play c4. But it's going to take a bit of time. So here, bishop to g4 is already a threat. That's a cool move with the 3.5 pawn advantage. So now the next thing we can do, I feel pretty good about this line. You know, if I'm getting to a position where I'm up 0.8, 0.9 according to the engine, I'm feeling pretty good about this. Let's go back now and look at some other move orders that white could play. Maybe all the way back to here even. So I'm looking now at the online database. Almost everyone plays e3 or e4. But let's say he plays knight to c3. How can we take advantage of this? Quick b4. Now let's say knight to e4. d6. It doesn't look like white did anything wrong here. Develop that knight to the center, but the eval is 1.6. All right, let's say e3. Now the computer likes f5 and bishop g7, and look at the diagonal that this bishop is on, and it's uncontested because white traded his dark square bishop early on for the knight on f6. So I'm really liking this type of position. If I can get the bishop cutting all the way across the board with this pawn on b4, there's no easy way to block out this bishop. There's not like an easy c3 guarded by the b pawn, because that can always be traded, and then the remaining white pawn will become weak. So these are very dynamic positions, and we're not getting the closed up center that I think Roy tends to like. So I don't feel that I have to go super deep on all this theory, but I'm just trying to gather a bunch of different maneuvers and moves that I can play and ideas in the position. So knight c3 is a mistake. Let's see, what else should we look at here? We could look at pawn to e3 instead of pawn to e4. So again, b4 is the top move. Now let's look at c3, trying to kind of shut out this diagonal. Now Stockfish says bishop g7 is the best move. And if c takes b, c takes b, it looks like we're still going to play d6, a5, f5, combination of those moves. So let's say knight b to d2, a5. Let's develop this bishop. I'm not sure which square. Let's just say e2. Castle, castle. Now pawn to f5, opening up this bishop again. Bishop a6, we can pressure the knight, which guards the pawn. Oh, and it looks like black can kind of convert this to a material gain already by playing bishop takes c4, queen f6 combination. So we're giving back the bishop pair. If we're playing queen f6, hitting this b pawn, and after rook b1, knight a6, queen d6, Yeah, this looks pretty good. Our pawn might come to d6 later. I'm actually wondering though, what if we don't take this knight right away? I kind of like holding off on this trade for a bit. Rook a to b1, then rook c8. Yeah, let's try this. Rook c1. Bishop takes, knight a6. If bishop takes here, there's queen takes, and we have a nice imbalance with a very strong bishop. So that might be a decent line for white. There's about a half a pawn advantage for us. One other line I wanted to look at here was there's a tactical sequence, d6. So whenever there's a tactical sequence, you should always kind of look at it and make sure that you know how to reply. And it looks like bishop to g7 or bishop to b7 would be the best reply. Which one do I like better? Probably bishop g7. And we can look at them in more depth to figure out the difference. Knight c3. Oh, and here a deep stockfish is saying let's castle right away. Allowing this because we can come at white really quickly. This knight is triple attacked on c3. Knight, queen, and bishop. And I like how dynamic this position is. None of the pawns are locked up. And black has an advantage of 1.4 according to the engine. Other moves that white could try, pawn to a4. We can lock it up again with b4, bishop g7. And once the bishop gets to g7, capturing here gives us the option of bishop takes or pawn takes. And I think I'm comfortable just calculating this over the board. It looks like in this case, e takes is a little better than bishop takes. But I'd be comfortable waiting to see over the board which way I want to take back because both look good for black. Okay, so let's say e4 now. So he's keeping the bishop pair on in this line. Castle. There's no e5 because of knight takes d5. So let's say bishop c4. d6. Castle. And now the computer likes this idea of h6, g5. If the bishop drops back. You can go for the bishop pair this way. So this is a more closed up position. This might be more of Roy's style, actually. We can take here, knight d7. This knight's headed to e5 again. Oh, b3 or c3 drops a pawn, so c3 cannot be played yet. Knight e5, knight b6 are options. What if he tries to lock it up? Knight takes, f5, bringing this bishop into the game. If pawn takes pawn, bishop takes back. Okay. So I'm looking at the amount of time so far that we've spent on this, and it's about a little under 20 minutes. I think this is feeling pretty good. And I think now what I will do to prep for the game is I'll just try to play like a few blitz games later or do a few tactics puzzles and just try to get my brain sharp, try to get my brain thinking tactically. The last over-the-board tournament I played back in July, after the first round or two, one thing I realized was I need to just play a lot of chess. I need to get my calculation speed increased, and that was the biggest thing. I was burning a lot of time, kind of like doubting my lines, not calculating very quickly and very accurately. So I think I feel confident in this opening. I know some of the plans. I've played these structures quite a bit in the past, so it's not completely new to me. That's another thing to think about. You don't want to play an opening that's so new to you that you can't learn it in like an hour or something before your game, right? You want to play a structure still that you've played previously. So build on your previous games, your previous repertoires, and try to throw something new at your opponent. I think that's the biggest takeaway from this. And we'll see what happens in the game. And after the game, I'll do an analysis and we can kind of recap. Did Roy and I play into this line? What went different? What went right? What went wrong? And I'll help you guys learn how to analyze the game afterwards and how to create some takeaways from the game. So that'll be in an upcoming video. So let's wrap this one up here for today. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up. And please subscribe if you're not a subscriber. And stay tuned. I'll be posting all my over-the-board games for this event. There's going to be 3 games. Jesse is also playing in this tournament, so we're hoping to get some content from him. Maybe some game reviews from his over-the-board games. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the event and the future videos. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.